Hi, Patch. Thank you so much for your time today. I am so glad to have you on board to discuss a very important topic. So, why don't you give us a quick intro and the topic that we're discussing about?
Sure. So, yeah, thank you so much for having me on today. My name's Padge. I'm the Global Head of Partnerships at Alexander Mann Solutions. And the topic today is really around navigating the noise in the HR technology world.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted you to say that is because of your job title, so people can say actually why you're talking about that topic, because you constantly deal with technologies day in, day out, right? That's your job. So why don't you sort of firstly give us a bit of a background on your experience and how you landed in this position, and also why you're doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. So background really quickly, 17 years in HR technology. I came through my career working in sort of a sales capacity with various technologies around talent acquisition and talent management and assessment, employee engagement, and then worked for clients like organizations, should I say, like IBM, Deloitte, Lumes, and now Alexander Mann Solutions. And my role with navigating the noise is something I think that resonates with all of the organizations we speak to. And I think it does is because there's just too much noise out there. So when I say noise, I'm talking around, and we all know about this, the number of new technologies that are out there, but not just the number, but the speed at which they are being created. I think is near on impossible to keep up with organizations business as usual. Also in terms of all the terminology. So, we went through the whole social scene, the mobile scene. We then went into software as a service and cloud, single database. We then went into the sort of predictive analytics, cognitive computing, now machine learning, now AI, NLP. And, you add that onto the noise of all the new players that are basically all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
On top of that, you've got all the acquisitions that are happening in the mergers of these different technologies, because there's so much cash flowing around with all the funding that's happening.
Yeah.
You've got race to the platform with all the technologies trying to do not just standalone, employee performance or screening or CRM or video interviewing, and now they're trying to combine. So you've got different, and I won't say any names, but lots of acquisitions that have been happening in this space of not just the big boys, but also the smaller startup organizations that are getting investment and then buying each other out. And also total talent. That seems to be an absolute critical topic. So my role is absolutely around going to events like Unleash, HR Tech, Innovation Circus, and trying to get a hold on what's happening in the market. What is disruptive? What is, I suppose, in market demand? What is client demand? So those are the three key things. What are clients wanting and talking about? What is the market positioning as the new upcoming things? And then what technology is really disruptive? Because I think what's key is that the big players in the market, the Oracles, the SAPs, the Workdays, I don't think have the capability and speed and investment to be as creative and to create as much innovation in their products as they absolutely are, but not to cover every single scenario.
Yeah.
So that's why all of these new startups are coming to the scene and building, those integration and connectors. So I spend my life looking at probably 4 to 5 technologies every week.
Oh, wow. That is such an interesting job. And when you were starting to talk about the evolution of technologies, it was what came to my mind is the whole evolution of ecosystems now, right?
Yep.
So different pieces of technologies actually being built in one platform with partners' ecosystem and things. How do you see that different to, let's say, merger or acquisition of two different tech over time coming together?
Yeah, it's a really good one. So I classify them as sort of mini ecosystems. So I think what happens is you've got this, and this has been happening for a long time, you've got the classic internal politics of an organization's IT team saying, well, we've invested in one of the big players. And so all of our applications across the employee lifecycle and talent acquisition beyond has to come from that vendor. The issue then comes when you get into the specialist category, so talent acquisition, the organization's team will say, well, this doesn't, fit our requirement in terms of functionality, in terms of experience, in terms of data, in terms of integration. and it will have an impact on things such as employee engagement, productivity, and so on. You've got IT pressuring them to go with the bigger players, and then you've got the different pockets of the business, the different talent categories, whether it's campus or grad, looking at, well, what's really disruptive? What's a game changer? How can we really attract our talent really quickly? So you've got this balancing act where I think organizations want simplicity to simplify their tech stack, but at the same time, they want best in class, they want experience. So coming to ecosystem, because the bigger players, I don't think, can provide everything, they have a partner. But I don't think, again, they have enough resource or focus on all the different partners out there. So you might get some of the big players having the same partners. So you might have the 3 big players having the same video interview partner. Well, that's great, and they have built integrations, but that doesn't give the organization, the clients, enough real food for thought in terms of what's out there, what's available. But even within the smaller players, they have their own, or if you look at a particular talent category, so applicant tracking systems, recruitment systems, they will have their own mini ecosystems. So if you take any of those main players, they will have an assessment provider, particular assessment providers, particular video interviewing providers, that they will work with on a regular basis. So what we try and help organizations is when they're looking to implement, deploy any new technology, we start to look at, well, what is the impact on that? Not just to buy that particular application, but what is the actual mini ecosystem that sits around it? I don't think today, with the clients I talk to, that they can buy a single platform to do everything. So they're having to buy this ecosystem. The ecosystem then comes down to how does that fit inside the business? How integrated is it into the employee or the user experience? So basic stuff like single sign-on, or is the data flowing correctly? Or can we embed the new application into the current application's UI? So I'm not having to go into multiple systems, even with single sign-on. I can actually continue to do my work from the one screen. So ecosystems are absolutely going to be there. I think that the missing bit is we're helping organizations navigate the noise through education and enablement of what's actually out there. Because if you just take chatbots, I'm an organization, I go, I need a chatbot. I fly to Vegas to go to Unleash, lovely event. I see 15 chatbots. They get 10 minutes to talk to me. I go away thinking, oh, really liked some of that. If I turned around to them at that point, the client said, what was the difference? They couldn't tell you, because in that 10 to 15 minutes, you would have heard the exact same pitch. And I think also, as they fly back from Vegas, they're followed by 15 emails from 15 salespeople trying to close them out, pretty much saying the same thing. So we help sort of validate that in terms of the partners we work with, about 100 globally, and we vet them before they come into our partner ecosystem, which is called the Hive. And then we work with partners to work out, what is your overall strategy? What are your objectives? What are your challenges? What is your current technology landscape today? And go forward over the next 3 to 5 years. So ecosystems isn't going to go away. I think it's just understanding those ecosystems, because what will change is who's integrating with who's playing with who. Lots of press releases out about CRMs going with some of the bigger players and who's accredited and who's not. So that's the bit that I think as a global head of talent acquisition, do they really have time to or the luxury to try and work any of that out? And that's where sort of we come in.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's fantastic. But with everything going on and so much tech and so many different ecosystems, the old players also, like big players working with startups as well, albeit little innovation, but they are starting to acquire or partner with some of these as well. AMS, since you've been there, you've done a brilliant job on that, because, we've met for the same purposes as well. So how do you prioritize, firstly, in terms of what partners are relevant for, let's say, the next year or 3 years? And once you've prioritized, what is the measurement, and how do you what process is it that you follow? Because there are many large players, no names mentioned, but many RPOs as well, who are trying to do this at the same time. So what's your advice in terms of how to prioritize and how do you measure?
It's a great one, because what we're not trying to be is the Argos catalogue, right? So we're not trying to do, in my opinion, and you'll get different stats from different people, but I think in the talent acquisition space, there's probably about 450 products. If you look at across the whole employee life cycle, you're probably looking at over 2,000, and that's growing every single year. In terms of, we're not trying to do everything. We've got 100 in the hive at the moment, and we're constantly reviewing that. So we're constantly looking at it, but it's based on those three pillars, which is client demand, market demand, and how disrupting are they in their talent category. We try to make sure that we have at least three providers in every category. So a category could be brand and experience, candidate engagement, sifting technology, CRM, gamification, video interviewing, whatever that category is. We have at least three that are in there. In terms of the vetting process, what do we look for? We've got our own criteria. So number one is experience. So experience is around how do we personalize content for that individual user? Are they a senior stakeholder? Are they in a call center? Are they a graduate? What type of experience do you want that persona to go through? That's linked to content. So with that experience, how do we provide the content that's relevant for those individuals? And then that links to features. So that experience layer, and that's a huge topic. Everyone, the buzzword now is all around, especially around LMSs, is that experience layer, system of engagement and experience, and how do you provide? So it can be done in lots of different ways, but how the system can provide those personalized experiences is one. Number two, speed to value. So this is a classic one where we've gone from the old traditional ones, which has taken months and years to deploy, to days for some of these technologies, but obviously with a caveat, be careful when they say days, what that actually comes with, the assumptions. But we're now in a point where we look at technology about how quickly can we get this up and running. So classic chatbots. One chatbot you might look at might take months to get up and running due to complexities of integration, learning, and so on. Actually, there might be some smaller players in the market which, don't do everything, but actually the speed to value for a particular challenge the client has, that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for the cake and the icing on top and everything. They're actually looking at, look, I've got a critical problem. I need to solve this problem. I need a tool to do it. It doesn't have to do all these other 17 things that I don't need it to do. And I know it doesn't, so I might have to swap this out at some point. But actually, my problem today is X. So it's thinking about the speed to value and also the agility going forward. So once it's up and running, how can I have ownership to go and update it and change it? The other ones, I won't go into the details, but the other ones is productivity. So we've seen Josh talk around systems of engagement, systems of record, systems of engagement, systems of productivity. So actually, are we plugging it in just to plug it in because it looks nice? Or are we actually, they're coming back to their outcomes, a productivity play? The last three are data and insight. So are we creating data, how much, how are we using it, when? Integration, so data flow, and then into the UI itself. Have they got pre-built connectors? Because the classic answer, I guarantee now, any client, any organisation that's watching this will go, every time they have a tech vendor come in, they talk about integration. They go, don't worry, we've got standard APIs. Do not worry, it's going to be easy. And it's a classic mistake out of every single time, because credibility is then lost in that. Because we all know integrations have got easier, but not everyone's on the same level. So you might have a great vendor here which say, I've got a brilliant API, and the tech they need to integrate with isn't as advanced. Yeah. So, and the last one is risk. So risk in terms of, we do our own vetting in terms of technology assessment, pen testing, hosting locations, GDPR compliant. There's some sifting tools out in the market that are massive in the US, haven't ticked the box of GDPR compliant. So when we look at those 100, we might say, well, these are for China, these are for the US, these are global. So that's really the criteria: experience, productivity, integration, risk, speed to value. Those are the things we look for.
That makes a lot of sense as well. I remember that because we're concerned about contractor platforms, and that's something that's coming quite a lot in debate as well. It'd be silly of me not to ask this question. We've learned as well that when we're trying to integrate, or even speaking about integration, certain VMSs or even ATSs are not ready because we don't build standard APIs. So it's like another focus group session we need to do with that particular tech in order to understand what data can they pass and what can we do, because us being API driven doesn't always help with the integration process. So you're absolutely spot on. It's gotten easier, but it's not easy because as well it matters in terms of who we're integrating with, and that's been a huge learning curve from our perspective.
Play ball, right? If they want to play ball, because they might say, well, actually, what happened? Well, I've seen it. What happened is they'll say, well, here's our standard APIs. I've just emailed them to you, and they email back, well, here's our standard APIs, and then we're just like, well, who's going to shift first? Yeah. And a lot of them will say, well, here's my, don't worry about integrations because we'll provide you, Mr. and Mrs. Client, with our API document. And as long as you have the capability internally to do that, go for it. And then the client they find out they don't have the capability or they don't have the resource. Or even if they do have the resource, it's going to cost a lot of resource or they're booked up for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
So I think we look at it purely from not just a technology play, but the Hive is all around, it's combining tech partners. And we have partners that aren't just tech. We have professional services organizations and we have content providers. But how do we merge the partner network with our internal capability? So we've got SMEs experience in selection assessment, in brand experience, in campus and graduate recruitment, in technology and D&I. And if you combine those two, because when a client comes to you and says, I'd love to deploy a CRM, and you go, yeah, okay. And they say, well, I've seen these, and these. What do you think? We can turn around and say, well, we've deployed 3 of those. So actually, here's the warts and all war stories of how it works, the pitfalls, not to be negative, but to educate the client. And what we're also seeing is clients that are on older or technology that's coming up end of life technology. I think, some of the big ATSs out there that are coming to end of life. And what's happening is that I spoke to a client the other day and they said, well, we're trying to get in touch with them. We're trying to get them to configure the system and optimize it. We can't do it. Can you guys help? And we're like, yeah, we've got the internal capability to help them out. So if you think about, this is not just the Hive isn't just an ecosystem of partners. It's actually a combination of capability and that partner network, which is constantly being reviewed and the market linked back to, as we said, client demand, market demand, and what's disruptive.
Absolutely. It's exciting that, there is someone like you in such a large organization taking care of this. As I said, more and more businesses are having positions like yourselves to focus on tech and external partnerships. But what I often see as well, and I've heard as well from other peers and startups and businesses, is that some of these roles fail because of lack of autonomy or enough control or even enough room to sort of explore and innovate. What is your view on that, and what is your experience when it comes to your role with that sort of feedback?
It's a tricky one. It's a cultural thing, I think. So it depends on the organization and where they want to be and where they're going. And I think that can be different industries as well. So if you think of the tech industry versus manufacturing, or if you think of, retail banking or whatever it may be, they're all at different journeys of digital transformation or whatever we want to call it. So I think what's happened is there isn't an easy answer to this, because what's happened is you're going to an organization, every single one of them is at such a different maturity stage of where they're going. So I could walk into a massive organization, enterprise organization, and do you know what their biggest pain point is? Just configuring and providing self-service in their core HR system. That's their digital transformation. Is I need self-service to my managers to book their holiday, to look at their timesheets, to look at their pays, whatever it is. That to them is huge, and they're focused on that. So when you come in, you show them some amazing gamification or some assessments that are based on uploading 10 pictures and create your personality, it blows their mind, and they're just like, whoa, well, we're so not there yet. We are just trying to get the basics. And you open the second door, and that will be, show me the latest and greatest. I want virtual reality. You go in thinking, oh, this organization's probably completely, there, and actually not necessarily. So every single one's different. And secondly, we have bloated HR technology landscapes in organizations because there's so many new, well, one of the reasons is because we've got so many new technologies, the 450 in talent acquisition alone, and the speed at which they're coming out, and the price is coming down. So what's happening is you'll go into again, this happens so many times, you go into an organization and you're talking to the HR team, they're doing one thing, the learning team are doing something else, the talent acquisition team are doing something else, graduates are doing something else. I've got organizations that have got a different ATS in their graduate to their experienced hire. They're buying a chatbot to sort out a problem in graduate, but they haven't thought about the whole chatbot strategy. You've got all of these examples. Because the price point's small, they can get in to the client, deploy quick, rapidly, which is great in learning, but you haven't got the overall strategy of the whole business. So some of the organizations we've got 68 different assessment providers globally. 68 in different pockets of the business globally, for different campaigns, for different. So if you get to, so all of these organizations are in such a different place, it's impossible. So what we try and do is just rein them in and say, look, let's not get blinded by the bling. Let's not get excited and just buy something. And I think credit to organizations, they know that, and they understand that, and they're doing the right things, absolutely. But again, the number of presentations I've been in where as technology vendors come in and the remit is this, and they've demoed this, and the client's gone, oh, we quite like this now, and they walk out, okay, we could do this and this, and we could do that with it, and then you have to reel them back in and say, but you wanted the other thing. Oh yeah, of course it does that. And actually, because the tech vendor has decided that actually what their strength is in section B, not A, and so the whole of the process is so complex and so changing every day that I don't think. But coming back to your point, I think it's a cultural thing with an organisation. They have to be ready for it. They have to have that vision of it and not get trapped, like you said earlier, around the next exciting thing. We need a chatbot because everyone else has got a chatbot, or we haven't got any AI. Right, we need to get some AI in here, plug it into anything, because as soon as we plug it in, it will fix our problems and everything else. And I think, just lastly, a big part of it, I think, is where we look at it as bots and bodies. So if you look at a process, what is the balance between what the bots or the automation or the technology will do versus the people? So a classic example of that is video interviewing, video scheduling. So you could plug in a great technology that does video scheduling, automates it, looks at your Outlook calendar. Oh, there's a Padge has got a space in his calendar, books me in. Well, it didn't know there was a space there because I was traveling on a train.
Right. So
you still need the people aspect of, you can't just fix it by automating and integrating it. And, so I think that's, again, something we look at is for every project, what is the balance between capability and bots and bodies that's needed?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds so full on that I have to ask you, why are you doing this role? Like, personally, what motivates you? Because I've heard you talk about organizations, you're so passionate about helping clients and everything else, but why are you doing it? It just sounds like a minefield.
I suppose in my life, before I got into technology 17 years ago, I was trying to work out what I wanted to do, and technology appealed to me because it's constantly changing. And I got into, I was selling at the time, recruitment technology, e-recruitment technology, when it was a PDF as an application form, and they thought that was e-recruitment. And just going from there to where we are now, what keeps me going is purely every client's different. Every day's different because I'm seeing a different technology. I've seen 3 technologies this morning, and some of it's just blown my mind in terms of, what's out there, what's coming. And I think that the most exciting thing is, for me, is all the disruptive technologies and helping organizations engage with giving them the spotlight, bringing them to the front to show. So it's a win-win. We're bringing sort of the disruptive technology up and shining a spotlight on it for organizations that maybe would never have tapped into that, found it, know about them. And when you plug that together and it works, it's brilliant, because the client's just like, Padge, that is awesome. That's, and we're, AMS, we're very much around getting the right people into jobs, helping create, talented organizations that are retained. So I think personally, me, it's because technology is just changing all the time. And I've been lucky enough in my career to bring back, when I was at Deloitte, they gave me a little robot that I brought back from home, and the kids played with it, and we could program it. So yeah, I think I absolutely love it, because it's constantly changing. It will always change. So we will never, the Hive and the partners we have in today, in 3 years, we can have a completely different number of partners based on where the market's going. So that's there's never a dull moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all of that. I was going to ask you one final question, I promise, which is, for any viewer, especially in your position, who is currently part of large organization in-house, but not an RP or MSP, and if they wanted to do this in-house, so build their own tech ecosystem and not have 68 selection partners, as an example, what would be your closing statements or couple remarks that you would sort of give them a starter advice? What would that be?
If they wanted to build everything in-house, or if they wanted to...
So just as an in-house team, not having an RP or MSP support like yourselves, but they're a huge organization.
Everything direct. Okay.
Yeah.
I think, and I think you pointed out earlier, what we're seeing is a lot of organizations are recruiting sort of tech innovation people as their job. Is the job I do, which is look at the market. I think the advice would be, try and go to as many events as you can. Try and speak to as many people as you can. Try and see as much technology as you can. I honestly believe you need to don't necessarily go with the default providers that are out there. I think you need to do research. You need to have a look at what's out there and try and actually guess. I know it's really impossible what's coming. The acquisitions and the mergers. Get as many pilots or trials of the technology as you can. I think play with it as much as you can, sandbox environments. But I think the big thing for, if you're doing everything direct and internally, is understand and map out what your 3 to 5 technology roadmap is. Then underneath that, link it with your internal capability. So we might deploy this awesome tool, but do we have the capability? What is the culture? A lot of the, so for example, LMSs, we bang on about the Netflix, approach. As an organization, are we ready for that? I'm not saying organizations aren't ready for it, but sometimes you get sold the dream, and actually when you come to deploy it and your user adoption doesn't hit the mark. So I would definitely be around those points that I mentioned. Think about integration, think around experience, around productivity, the positioning, the agility, and also the capability and the culture. If you look at all of those, there's a lot there, but I would not cross off an organization just because they're small. I would look at as much as you can, immerse yourself in it, but come back to your overall, what is your 3 to 5 year plan? Because in the tech world, that's a long time, 3 to 5 years. And where do you want to be? What type of experiences do you want to create with design thinking and the different personas in the business? Just keep researching, keep looking, and give us a call.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, put a human touch to it, peer-to-peer networking and peer-to-peer, advisory groups as well, that can be useful for enterprise businesses that are wanting to do things on their own. So, well, Patch, thank you so much for joining us today. And for all the viewers, thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. I will have Padge's details as well in the description of this video, so you can reach out to him directly at AMS. Thank you very much.
Thank you.